Welcome everyone, this is Dr. Sula Darville. I am the upper strings professor at Eastern Kentucky University, and today I would like to talk to you about the Kentucky All State Excerpt number 2 for the violas. And it's a quite long excerpt and there's a lot of fast fingers, but hopefully by the end of this video you will feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more confident playing this excerpt. And remember, you have a lot of time to prepare, so relax and let's take it slowly and build it up from there. So this is again like the first excerpt from Holst's planet Mars. In general, this movement is very masculine, very powerful, full of testosterone. I always say that, the bringer of war. So keep that in mind when you're playing it. We need some sort of confidence and powerful sound coming through especially the recorded audition. If you're gonna go err on the side of overconfidence than timid. It's always a little bit better when you're watching a recorded audition. Some people will play this too quietly, too afraid. It's always better to have a little bit more confidence than too little confidence. Of course, observe all the dynamics, but make sure when you're recording this, you're very powerful. As a player, you come across as very confident, powerful player. Great, let's go straight in. I will have some fingering suggestions. I didn't change a lot of fingerings in this one. If you have different fingerings, go with that. These are my suggestions. I'm starting this in third position, and this is already marked anyways, on the A flat. Right, and I'm gonna keep there until 1, 2, 3, fourth measure of the first line. I'm gonna go to the first position on an open D. So I'm starting in third position. Stay. Now first position. Right where I just stopped, it says 2 before 10. It says a second finger. Don't do that, do a third finger. You already have a staccato quarter note before that. There is no reason to play that D flat with the second finger. There is no reason to do that. So after the G, the previous note, quarter note G, use another third finger. You can vibrate better. You are avoiding that sliding second finger. There is no reason to do that. After that, I stay in first position. Did I change anything? I didn't change anything for the printed fingerings until, look at the fourth line, where one before 5-2. I'm gonna give you a different fingering for that. So let's go find the 5-2. This is before 11 on the fourth line. I'm gonna start one measure before on a B natural. I'm in third position there. Shift to fifth, and I will end in fifth position. So I start in third position, shift. So I'm ending that D flat on a D string with a third finger. I'm not shifting down for that last note. It's a quick quarter note anyways. And before that, I'm shifting to fifth position on the F, and I'm staying there. So I use 1, 2, F is 1, G2, A flat 3, G2 again, and the last note of 5-2 is a third finger on the D string. After that, go ahead and go to first position for the long notes. I don't think you are going to be too worried about those. I will give you a couple more fingering suggestions for the part that starts at box 11. I'm starting that with an open A, and then third finger, first finger on the D sharp, and then I do third finger on the F sharp. I have a smaller size viola. I have a 15.5 inch. If you have a bigger viola, you might want to do that F sharp like it's recommended with fourth finger. If you have a 15.5, maybe even 16, you can do it with third finger. just my third finger is more athletic than my fourth finger. In general, upper strings, we use our third finger a lot more than the fourth finger, so I should try to use my athletic fingers for the fast passages like that. The next entrance is still in first position. Again, for the D sharp, I'm using a 1 instead of a 4. Right? So this is my third entrance. This is the fingering that I use for the third entrance. This is the third entrance after box 11. I start with the fourth finger again. This time fourth finger, because I'm gonna go to the G string, right? I do a 4, and then I do 3. You can, if you want to use the first finger at the end of the second to last line, you can use the first finger. I just, for me, it's easy to use the fourth finger on a smaller size viola, and I like that a little bit of an extension since I'm going all the way towards the G string. I don't want to reuse my first finger. I want to be able to use different fingers, again, to not cut my speed. And this is my final entrance. After that, this is the very final entrance of the fast part. I start with open G. 3, 2, 1. Fourth finger, second position, I shift. And then I come back to first position. Why do I do that? Why do I shift to second position? Look at the very last entrance after 11. You're gonna see E, D sharp, C sharp, B. I want to keep them in the same string, on the same string, so that I don't do weird, unnecessary string crossings. When something is so fast, you want to avoid unnecessary everything. If it's an unnecessary string crossing, get rid of that. If it's an unnecessary fingering, if it's gonna slow you down, get rid of it. This string crossing if I don't do that in second position, I will need to go to the D string for E only, and maybe D sharp. There's no reason to do that, so I am shifting to second position instead. So I started again. This is the last entrance. 3, 2, 1, and then shift. 4, 3, 2, 1, shift down. Right? One last time. 0, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shift down 3, 2, 1. And then D sharp with first finger. F sharp with second finger. 1. The G is gonna be right next to that third finger with a second finger. Don't repeat the third fingers. And use the fingering for the last 4 notes. When you're done, you're in fifth position. Great. Let's talk about how to practice this. When I'm practicing anything, when I'm learning something new, I go back it off all the way to whatever tempo that I can play it at perfectly. So if you are trying to find your ultimate tempo that you can play this right now, don't say I can play the opening because it's full of quarter notes faster, and then I need to make it slower so that I can hit the 16 notes. Make sure you have one tempo that you can sustain from beginning until the very end of the excerpt. If it's 60, that's great. If you want to back it off, go all the way to 50, 40. There's no shame in that. Make sure you do that from the start though, so that you don't need to go back and clean it up when you learn something. So learn it right the first time. Go in 5-click increments. That's my suggestion. Bring it up all the way to whatever your performance tempo is going to be. 130, 140, 120. Does not matter that much. Around that region, 130 region. And you're going to get there pretty quickly. In 1 week, you're going to be able to go from 60 to 130 if you practice it right. When you're practicing this, make sure you're paying attention to the phrases. A lot of people will play this just straight through and not pay any attention to anything except the box 11 and onwards, just because it's a lot of fast notes. So if you do that, if you make sure it's musical, you're going to stand out everything that you do to make sure that you are different than everybody else is a good thing in an audition, in a positive way, not in a negative way. Make sure that you're starting this in a healthy dynamic. You're coming in, if you look at the original viola part, which I would recommend you to do. If you look at the part, you will find it on IMSLP and listen to the recording. you will be able to get the whole piece in context. If you've never played it, especially a great thing to do. You're coming from a forte dynamic before, so start with a healthy, a little bit less than forte so you have room to grow, and make sure you're bringing out each individual phrase. So find the phrases, and when you're doing that, once you have the intonation down, vibrate, practice slowly with vibrato, so when it's faster, you can keep the same kind of vibrato in the fast tempo. Some people just practice without vibrato and then try it with vibrato and it gets out of tune or it's not even. So you need to practice vibrato as well. If it's in tune, then go and add vibrato, and when you get it faster and faster, get it faster with vibrato. Make sure you have this even nice vibrato throughout the opening of the whole excerpt though. So I start with my first phrase. I'm gonna start with a healthy mezzo forte. And I'm build it up until there because that was the end of my first phrase. The second phrase is exactly the same as the first phrase. Right? I start a little bit less, build it up. Not too less that it sounds like suddenly subito piano, but then I will be able to show individual phrases and then I can make a gradual overarching crescendo as well. So I build it up and then I back off for the next phrase a little bit so that I can build it up again. And after that, the third measure, no, it's not the third measure, never mind. The last measure of the first line, you're gonna start just a tiny bit less. Right? Build it up. And the next time, again. And then again. So it happens once at the end of the first line. The next thing is exactly the same as the end of the first line, but in a different pitch. So you did it a little bit more insistently. And the last time you play it on a D flat, it's the highest pitch, highest register that you got so far. So make sure you show it off a little bit more. So make a big crescendo until then. At 10, I would again back off and start building it the same way. So find the individual phrases, make sure you show the phrases, and then make sure you have an overarching crescendo. That will make it interesting. Keep that vibrato going, especially while you're getting louder and louder. Very important. Every note should vibrate, not one or two notes. Every note. Make sure that you do that, and it's gonna sound so much better. Okay, great. I'm not gonna worry too much about the fortissimo. Don't worry too much about it. This is in context of the whole piece. So it's marked that way so that you can be heard, but the whole orchestra is blasting out at that point. So don't say, oh my god, how do I make the 4 fortes? I've never played that before. Everything in context, right? So in this context, since everything is loud, it just tells you that it needs to be as loud as possible. So when you do that, make sure it's a healthy, think about it as a healthy fortissimo. Fortissimo, if you try to do this, it's gonna sound crunchy, you're gonna hit all the other strings. So everything in context, think, if I can get a big, healthy sound, which is gonna be probably fortissimo, that's great. Don't try to make a scratchy sound, don't overplay it. Again, in the big orchestral context, that just needs to be heard. That's the only reason that is there. Let's move on to everybody's favorite fast notes. I know it's difficult, but don't worry. The important thing that you need to pay attention to is that you start that whole thing piano. You never played piano until then in this excerpt. So when you show the entrance, make sure it's piano. And every entrance is marked piano to crescendo. I kind of agree with that, but there needs to be an overarching crescendo too, right? So we did a crescendo in the phrase. So I would recommend start piano. Next one, start not piano, a little bit louder than piano. Not necessarily mezzo piano, but a little bit louder. And then the third entrance, start mezzo piano. The fourth entrance, definitely start mezzo forte. It's not that, don't start every entrance piano and make a crescendo because that defies the whole excerpt's purpose. And this is, the penciled in writing is not host's original dynamic. So you need to honor what the conductor, what the composer wanted to do with this piece. So it has one piano and crescendo throughout. Make sure every entrance that you do is a little bit louder with a crescendo. Don't say, oh, I need to back off piano and crescendo again. No, back off piano. That doesn't make a lot of musical sense in this context. Okay, I will play for you the excerpt, how it should sound like a little bit later. Let's talk about how we should practice this so that when you're getting it faster and faster, it makes sense. I always recommend practicing, which I did also in the first excerpt. Anything that sounds that should sound staccato and off, you have to practice it on the string. Don't practice it. It's an unnecessary thing that we do as string players, upper string players. I don't know if the cellists or bassists do that too. When we see that dot, we say, "Oh God, yeah, let's jump up and down on the string." Then we get this super vertical and very big motion, and then that will never get faster. So if you practice like this, you probably think, "Oh, it doesn't sound bad. It sounds staccato and off the string." Let's see how it goes when it's in tempo. Right? It doesn't even match my fingers. I mean, there's no way something that is going super vertically gonna be in the same speed as my left hand. What you want to do to make things clean and even is matching your left hand with your right hand. They need to move at the same time. If one is moving faster, in that case it will be my left hand. One is moving slower, it's not gonna be clean. Whatever you do, if you are practicing 8 hours and thinking, "Oh my God, this is not getting any better," it's usually the way that you practice spiccato. So stay on the string, trust me on this one. Find the balance point for my bow, it's right here. We're gonna stay in that balance point region, and every note that I play will be articulated with my first finger. And I'm gonna do it a little bit louder with a healthy sound, and it's gonna be sticky. So don't get uncomfortable with that sticky sound. A lot of students don't want to hear that, so they do wistful. They say, "Okay, this is piano, I'm doing it short, and I don't know what's the problem." You're not going to be able to play it like that when it's fast. Everything that you practice, please keep it in mind how you want to perform it in tempo. If you're practicing it one way and then expecting something totally different when you play it in tempo, you wasted all that time of practicing, which we do quite often. So practice the way that you will eventually perform, which will be very close to the string, even though it's short, and it will be clean left hand, right hand matching, very, very short bow strokes, but still sticky. So let's call it a healthy mezzo forte when we are playing this. Very short bow strokes. I'm around my balance point, and I'm not going to use too much bow at all. See this, but every bow stroke I do, my wood comes closer to the hair and then immediately relaxes. Hair and then relaxes. And that in return, when I do it faster, is gonna give me a nice spiccato. So again, this is slowly. Right, let's do it with my bestie. His name is Carl, my metronome. Carl has been through a lot, so sometimes it turns on quite late. Let's start with Carl at 60 to a quarter note, which is what I recommended you to practice with. This is my quarter notes. I'm going to start with 11. I'm going to show you how it sounds like when it's slow. I'm keeping that very sticky, short bow strokes, right? And watch my bow and watch my hand. It's going to be a lot of flexibility. And you will say, "This is not spiccato." I promise you, this is staccato. This is on the string, but short. That in return, when it's faster and faster, will turn into spiccato. So let's try 70. Not that much faster, 10 clicks faster. But immediately you will see that the bow itself wants to come off. It wants to bounce. I'm not trying to bounce it. It wants to do it because I'm practicing it the right way. Right, it wants to bounce. I'm keeping it more close to the string. Still, I'm not letting it bounce because I have a lot more increments to go. So, try it again. It wants to come up already at 70. Let's try it faster. You're gonna go with smaller chunks, but I'm gonna go to 80 just to show you how it wants to automatically come off. Right? But I'm still very close to the string. I'm just bouncing because I'm keeping the same articulation, and at this tempo it's so much easier to do it slightly off than on the string. I'm not trying to do it off. The right articulation in my right hand is giving me that nice bounce. Right? And that's piano enough. Let's go to 90. And you will see it will be perkier and perkier in the spiccato. And I'm not trying to do this really choppy vertical spiccato. I'm not overthinking it. I'm keeping it short. I'm giving enough articulation with my first finger. I'm also using a lot of my hand small muscles. I'm not using a lot of the big muscles. You will see if you have a rigid hand, it will look like this. And you will see everything coming from your bicep. With the small things, always keep in mind, not just for this, but everything. If you want to achieve something fast, you need to use smaller bows and you need to use your smaller muscles. For big things, big sounds, we use our big muscles. We usually get the sound from our back muscles. When something is so gentle, in this case I wouldn't call it gentle, something so, I don't know what the exact word is, maybe fragile, very, very fine. Whenever you need finesse, we are getting to use smaller and smaller muscles, right? So keep that in mind. And remember, we're gonna take it from 60 or slower, doesn't matter, 5 click increments, and you're gonna get it all the way to 130. And while you're doing that, keep the sound quality in mind. Bad sound quality but fast fingers don't mean anything. Clarity comes from matching your left hand with the right hand. Not crunchy sound, but really healthy, very nice core to the sound, and that's gonna give you a good audition. Great, now I will show you how this excerpt will sound like in tempo approximately 130 to a quarter note. Okay, so I hope that you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, if you need me to clarify things, please don't be afraid to send me an email. You can find me on Facebook and send me a Facebook message from there, right on my page. I will get back to you, maybe not immediately, but I will find time to get back to you. And make sure that when you're practicing, you're keeping calm. Don't try to play it too fast suddenly. If you do it with a planned accelerando in your practice time, you're gonna get it perfectly clean and fast in time. So don't freak out and try to do everything fast and get upset when it doesn't happen. Right? It takes a lot of patience. So if you keep working at it patiently, it will happen. I will be back very soon with my videos about how to do the scales on the viola, and I'm hoping that you guys are all doing well. I will see you next time.